This is Jesse from Ken Mode, and you're watching Sonic Perspectives.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another interview of Sonic Perspectives. I'm Rodrigo, and my guest today is Jesse from the band Ken Mode. Jesse, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the new Ken Mode album, No, but before we get to that, you're from Winnipeg, right? Is that where the band still lives?
That is where most of the band lives. Our bassist, Scott, lives in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, which, I mean, it's like a good brisk 8.5 hour drive away. No big deal, right?
How do you guys make that work?
Painfully. We do way too much work in short spurts because of the drive space. Actually, lately we've been getting him to drive ever since we had been just buying him flights from time to time, but can you believe it? It costs between $650 to $750 to fly from Saskatoon to Winnipeg now.
Canadian,
it's an hour flight. Like, that's so stupid.
Yeah. I guess the air company is trying to recover the cost of COVID. That's my guess, anyway.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that's the excuse for everything right now, right?
Yeah. I live in Toronto and I travel a lot for work. I just came from Alberta last weekend, and well, Manitoba is a province I'm yet to visit, but I should do that before it gets too cold this year.
I don't know. I don't know if you need to visit. It kind of sucks here.
Well, Saskatchewan's on the list too, so
we'll get to those. Kind of sucks there too. It's funny because if anyone else said that, we'd be super offended. But since I live here, I can say it kind of sucks here.
Of course, you can own it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when it comes to Null, the new album, I should start by saying the cover, which you see right here in my background, is just insane. It seems you guys decided to kick it up a notch in terms of artwork, starting from the previous album, Loved, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've been working with our artist friend Randy Ortiz for many, many years. He started doing gig flyers for us in like 2004. So we've kind of given him free reign for a very long time, and he's been doing all of our album artwork specifically since our Success record. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like he's upping the ante every time. But I mean, it's hard to compete with the Loved one too, because that's becoming an iconic image of his, because he actually created that not just for our band. He made it, and then we told him, like, we need to use that.
It was freaky for sure. Yeah, it was scary. Yeah, this one's pretty cool too. Yeah.
I really like it. Yeah. In fact, this will be the first time we've ever made like a proper stage banner for on stage, and we're getting that gigantic face behind us. It'll be awesome.
Very cool. Yeah. And let me ask you about the single Unresponsive, which is an exercise in building tension, right? What was the thought process behind that one? And I know it talks about mourning the loss of community in a sense, right?
When I wrote that one, it was I think it was actually the last song written in the entire group of songs that we made for this and the next record. So it was like later summer 2021 that I finished this one. I came up with that bass line and just started building everything around it. Originally, I wasn't sure if it would actually even end up becoming a song, but the way I constructed the percussion to kind of create this swell of dynamics, it turned into something really cool, because I was playing the vocals and the drums off of each other. The whole thing is very much about dealing with depression and disappointment and loss of community. And specifically for me, it was my issues with my martial arts community throughout the pandemic. I mean, I kind of lost touch with all of the communities that have become hugely important to me in my life. The musical one, though, I didn't note any stupid fallout. martial arts, it was stupid.
Got it.
Very
Yeah.
stupid. A lot
Yeah.
of anti-mask, anti-vaccination, COVID denial type shit. Like
Mhm.
that community was just, I don't know. It fundamentally disappointed me. And I could tell from the communications I had with my musical community, that people were just kind of, they all were feeling the same way, but we were just stuck from being able to do any of our activities. So
Got it.
that was the loss of community specifically that I
Mhm.
hint at through a lot of these lyrics.
Got it. Yeah. And tell me about A Love Letter. I was listening to it and it has the lyrics, I am a student of predators. And I was like, well, it's a love letter, but it's not Bon Jovi by any means, right?
Yeah, that one we had a lot of fun with. Specifically, a lot of the phrases in that I make a point of not explaining ourselves in it,
Right.
because I know with each and every person, they can conjure up different feelings and different instances in their life where those words become very poignant.
Mm.
And I mean, it's never a good thing, any of the words that are said in this song. So
Yeah.
I kind of enjoy leaving that ambiguous to a degree and not actually explaining where we're coming from on that front.
Right.
And particularly playing the words against the title is a lot of fun for us.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, I love the dissonance in the saxophone on that track. And where did that come from?
I told Kathryn I wanted her to make a sound that sounded like a dying elk,
Yeah,
and
it's
that's what
grating
she
for
laid on
sure.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's that other we she came up with a kind of a quasi lead in the middle of the second chorus that to me reminded me of like if Miles Davis was playing a war horn, like in something like Lord of the Rings or something. And that
Right.
was where we did that kind of over distorted saxophone part. That just sounded so cool against
Yeah,
those chugs. So
it
it was
does.
a
It
nice
does.
contrast where like the one sounded just like atonal mess, and then the other actually held a melody, but over top of a very dissonant riff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun showcasing the saxophone in that way on that song.
Yeah. And I know Kathryn joined the band not too long ago on the previous album, and it does show
Yeah.
that your sound is reaching new heights with her addition, right? Talk to me about the
Hmm.
importance for the sound of the band and the decision to broaden your sonic palette in a way.
Um, in terms of like bringing the saxophone in, I just wanted to start experimenting with that instrument.
Mhm.
And at the time, we kind of lucked into working with Kathryn because she got in touch with my brother and I about interning for our company. And
Oh,
at the time, like we didn't have enough work to even humor that. But we did suggest that she get some financial accounting courses under her belt. And we're actually working with her in that regard now with our company because we handle business management and accounting and tax for larger touring artists than us. So
okay.
we've met her that way, and it just so happens that she had a degree in music from Brandon University in saxophone, and I was looking for
Wow.
someone to play that instrument. So she started playing with us in regards to that, on the Loved record, but we never brought her out on tour because she was only on 3 songs on the album, and
Mm.
we were only playing 2 of those live, so it didn't really make sense to pay for a whole extra person for two
Yeah.
songs. But as the writing for these most recent works came together, I was experimenting with a lot of synthesizer. And then I also was adding piano to it. And I was just messing around with as many instruments as I had access to. And I pitched to her, like, can you play all this stuff? And she plays piano, she plays synthesizer, she plays guitar. Like, it's wild the number of instruments she can play. So we pitched like becoming a proper member, and she was down for the journey here. So it's very lucky that she knows how to play so many things because we've made her part in this band by far the most difficult to play because she's jumping around doing different patches and playing different instruments. It's yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be wild live.
Yeah. And I think another consequence of that is the song Lost Grip, which, all the other songs clock around the 3-minute mark, but this one is like a 10-minute sonic extravaganza, right? How did that
Yeah.
one develop? Yeah.
Scott and I wrote all the riffs for that one.
Mm.
Um, And then we constructed it very much on a computer, and then got Shane to fill in the drum beats. And I think Scott and I came up with the piano and synth parts as we put it together. Yeah, that was the way that one kind of came together. And we very much were like piecing, it was like putting together a puzzle with all these different parts, literally just on a grid, and then had to try and work out how we would actually play it as a band.
Right.
Which this one's actually, I think, one of the more fun ones, at least from a live perspective, because all the additional elements that we added to it, we can actually play as a 4-piece band. So it's for me, I think it's going to flex the fact that we're a 4-piece the most, and it's going to be in the set that we're going to be playing this fall. So I just think it's such a cool song.
Yeah, and well, it's a unique length too for that style of music for sure. So yeah. And
I like to think it's not boring, despite the fact that it's 10 minutes.
No, of course not. No, it takes me in different ways, in different avenues. So yeah, it's not like a one punch kind of thing. It just goes everywhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
God, imagine it was like just this raging, speeding 10 minutes. Oh.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And one curious song title is "But They Respect My Tactics." What's that one about, if you can elaborate?
The name itself, I don't remember where that came from. I think Scott texted me that. We've talked about this in other interviews, where we keep this list on my phone of phrases that my bandmates will either say or send to me that other people around them have said that we think is entertaining, and I copy them down. But They Respect My Tactics, I think, was something that Scott sent from Saskatoon, and I don't remember the context of who was saying that and why.
Right.
The actual lyrical content itself revolves around our social media society, a disappointment in your quote heroes who refuse to let go of the past, and just a lot of existential themes of growing old and the pointlessness of our very existence. Real happy stuff.
Right. I can tell, yeah. And on the topic of unique song titles, "Throw Your Phone in the River" might be another example of that as well, right? The sentence that you heard here and there, yeah.
I mean, that one was 100% just me being frustrated with the world and everything that is the online world, and how everyone is just attached to these goddamn things. And I just want to roll it all up in a carpet, set it on fire, and throw it into the river sometimes.
Yeah, I guess, we all have our bouts against social media, so I can definitely relate to that for sure. Yeah. And so Null will be part of a 2-album arc. What can we expect next? Is the material for the next album already written, or are you going to start from scratch? Or
yeah, the 2-album arc, we wrote and recorded it all at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, the reason this all happened is we'd originally meant to record one album in the summer of 2021. We'd been writing since probably spring-ish 2020. And we wanted to bring the producer who did our Loved album up to Canada to record it again. And initially we'd had July 2021 slated, but by the time we had to make the call to actually like book his plane tickets from New York, Canada still hadn't opened up its borders to non-essential workers. So, and actually Manitoba was in a full lockdown again in May of 2021. So we just went like, there's no way this is happening. We should just pivot to the fall. Hopefully it'll be able to happen that way. And thankfully it did. But by the time we finally got him up there, we had 75 minutes worth of music. And I just didn't want to make like a double LP. I don't think that's what people want from us. There's like a select few that would humor listening to something that long from a band like us. But I think for the most part, if we put out like a 75-minute album, people would only listen to like the first 15 minutes and the rest of it would get ignored, which to me feels like a commercial waste of art. And I don't want to do that given the amount of time and effort we put into all this, and money. I mean, it cost a lot.
Yeah, of course.
So we recorded all 75 minutes of this and decided how to separate them out into albums once we had it all mixed and mastered. Well, I guess pre-mastering, because we needed to figure that out when we mastered it, but it was all mixed and we separated them out into two distinct albums that have their own feelings and their own story arcs, but they do fit together as one.
Right.
And that was all finished like back in January. So the reason people are only hearing all the Null stuff now is because we had to wait for the vinyl manufacturing queue so we could get this out properly, so we'd have like a proper album launch in September. So we'll probably wait till next year to do the Void record, just so there's enough space that people can absorb it. I don't want to like slight any of this material, so we wanted to play this right.
Got it. That makes sense. I think it was a wise decision, if I may interject, because
as much as everyone says content is king, if you overwhelm people, they start to tune out. And I mean, we don't write enough material that I want to tune people out. Yeah. We've been around so long that like I want to make everything we do matter.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And you talk about, writing in the spring and recording in the fall. And as a Canadian who wasn't born here, I find that my activities, my mood, even some of my decisions and opinions are very much affected by the weather and the seasons. Is that the case for you as well over there? Or?
Oh yeah, it's hard not to. I think my darkest moments of despair through the last 2 years were certainly during the winter.
Yeah.
When it starts to get dark all the time and cold.
Yeah.
It's just, you can't help but get miserable. Yeah. And I mean, as much as I try and slam vitamin D supplements, like it's just not enough.
Yeah. It only goes so long, right? And I think November for me is the worst because you have shorter days and it gets way too dark for me. But I'm South American, by the way, originally. So
yeah. You don't say.
It's challenging, man. And I try to run outside to the extent that I can, but come like February, March, I'm like, give me the treadmill any day. So
from what I understand, like especially people born not from northern climates, like the vitamin D and general like differences in skin pigmentation really mess with people, because like it's straight up you have thousands of years of evolution behind your skin tone being matched to a certain climate, and now you're in this miserable frigid wasteland not getting enough sun. It's like your body's going, what are you doing?
Exactly. I'm glad you put that into words.
And that's why conversely, when you take someone like me and put them like next to the equator, like we burn to a goddamn crisp, I'll get cancer in 30 seconds.
Exactly.
Hasty little wiener.
Oh yeah. And so what's it like to be in a band with your brother? I mean, we have examples like Van Halen, AC/DC, Oasis, Arcade Fire, Kings of Leon, and it's not always easy to work with a sibling.
Not always easy, but in this case, it's pretty damn easy. Without him, he's the rock that if I didn't have him, this certainly would have fallen apart. And I mean, the funny thing is usually when you have siblings in bands that work long-term, very frequently one of them is the drummer, and the drummer is very, very good at what they do. So that has a tendency to be why they're such a rock in that duo, I think. Right. And I feel like that's very much the case with my relationship with Shane. That, and I mean, he's also a chartered accountant, so he's like the guru of the business side too. So
got it. Yeah. And you won a Juno Awards in 2012 for the album Venerable. What was that like? And is it something you and the band value and aspire to still?
I mean, we definitely value it. It kind of came across as a total goddamn fluke. Never something we'd like. Playing what we play, why would you ever aspire to win a national trophy like that? Like, It's just, we're making antisocial music to quell the noise in our own heads. The fact that anyone cares about it outside of us is a blessing in its own way. So that being said, like I'll for sure be bummed if we don't get nominated again.
Yeah.
And we're certain this, like, it's funny, we won the first time we ever got nominated, and we've lost every time since. So we're about due to not be nominated this time.
Right. Or to win again. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
That would be crazy. I mean, the first band to win that stupid thing twice.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Now's the time.
Yeah. And a question about your singing style, which involves a lot of screaming and spoken words. Have you ever taken any singing lessons at all? Because that style seems to take a toll on your voice eventually, you know?
I have taken some singing lessons for a short period before we did our Success record, but that was because I was humoring trying to add more melodic actual singing into it.
Okay.
And I didn't end up liking the way my voice sounded, so I never ended up using it. But there's a reason my voice sounds the way it does, and it's because I don't have training and
Right.
I'm not doing anything right. I'm very much raised on the Henry Rollins school of belting it out in an unhealthy way with no regard for tomorrow. And it's a borderline miracle that I'm still able to do it now in my 40s.
Yeah. I guess you have to time your tours appropriately, right? To maintain your voice or.
Yeah, and even just I find the biggest thing as I get older is you have to continue practicing all the time and keeping in shape. It's just like any other exercise and any other muscle. If you're out of shape, you're gonna burn the thing out and damage it.
Yeah.
So that's what we're actually going through right now is the marathon practices. We're upping it to 3 to maybe 4 times a week so I can do the full set. So by the time we start playing shows, it's not going to overload my vocal cords.
All right. All right. And well, wrapping it up, we mentioned touring, and you have a tour across Canada this fall with a date in Toronto at the Baby G in November.
We do.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a disjointed run. We're doing 4 shows in September with Vile Creature from Hamilton and Mares of Thrace from Calgary. We're coupling Montreal and Toronto as part of our US tour. So we're kind of going beelining down all the way down to Texas and then going up the East Coast, and then we're dipping through Quebec and Ontario and then back through the Midwest to get home. So we're trying to cover as much ground as we can in 3 weeks. Excellent. Which is about as long as we can deal with when we have our jobs waiting and with our inboxes just swelling.
Yeah. How do you balance that? I mean, do you find time to work, to like do some work remotely while on the road, or not really?
A little bit, but I find it's difficult. So I know we're all gonna try, and it's basically to keep fires out and deal with emergencies as they come up. But I think in terms of like actually getting a good workload done, it's pretty difficult when you're on the road. Also, just because you're not sleeping very well, and I feel crazy half the time because of that. And there's an old saying in the touring circles that everything in life is hurry up and wait. So you're always in a rush, but then you're sitting around waiting. So I hope we can get some work done while we're in those waiting periods. But honestly, you get interrupted so much that it's very difficult. Yeah. That's why we can only go out so much. I'm hoping we can like streamline this process so we can do that more frequently in smaller, more digestible chunks. And I kind of feel like that's going to be the wave of the future with how expensive everything is. So we'll see. We'll see. It'd be nice to like, oh, we're going to do a short UK jaunt for a week.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not Guns N' Roses or Iron Maiden, that's the thing you should aspire for, right? Keeping your day job while touring in between. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And hopefully just not losing your ass in the process.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jesse, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to seeing you here in Toronto in November. All the best with the new album, Null.
Thank you very much, my good man. Good talking to you.
Cheers. Take care, man.
Cheers. Take care.